As you all know, cardiovascular disorders are one of the leading cause of mortality throughout the world. Almost 31% of the mortality across the globe is caused by cardiovascular diseases. And all the traditional risk factors like diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemias, behavioral therapy, and do not contribute and cannot explain the all incidence of cardiovascular disease. Almost always around 20% of the patients present with acute coronary syndrome do not have any of the risk factors, traditional risk factors. And almost 40% of the patients present with just a single risk factor and present with acute coronary syndrome. So these traditional risk factors do not tell us why the patient is having acute coronary syndrome. So traditional risk factors like diabetes, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, hemostatic thrombotic disorders, behaviorals, demographic, and genetic reasons. So almost 90-20% patients present with acute coronary syndrome or cardiovascular disorder do not have any of the risk factors. And one risk factor is found in only 43%. That means almost 60% of the population present with acute coronary syndrome does not have more than one risk factor, or at least they don't have none risk factors. Only 38% of the population have risk factors which are more than 2 in number. So these risk factors traditionally do not explain why a patient without any risk factor has presents with acute coronary syndrome. We normally see in our day-to-day practice a thin-built person coming with acute coronary syndrome, lipids are normal, he is not a hypertensive, he is not a diabetic, but still presents acute coronary syndrome. How do you explain this? What is the cause? This is all what I have discussed. So when HSCRP, highly sensitive CRP levels were added to having a health risk score and see LDL levels, it was seen that high level HSCRP is associated with higher incidence of relative risk of CVD. Higher levels of CVD are associated with higher levels of HSCRP in having a risk in every category as well as in LDL levels. And this is HSCRP levels less than 1 to 3 and 3. Real risk of CVD. Higher levels of HSCRP are associated with higher levels of risk of CVD in every primary risk estimate. Same is with the LDL cholesterol levels. Less than 130, 130, 160 and more than 160. C-reactive protein less than 1, 1 to 3 and 3. Higher levels are associated with higher levels of CRP are associated with higher levels of CVD risk. So, in 2003, Center for Disease Control and Prevention and American Heart Association said that measurement of HSCRP, highly sensitive CRP, may further direct further evolution and therapy in the primary prevention of CVD. The entire adult population should not be screened for HSCRP for purpose of cardiovascular risk assessment. And in 2010, ACCF and AHA guidelines for assessment of cardiovascular risk in adults measure CRP apparently healthy elderly population people to identify cardiovascular risk. In 2013, ACC and AHA guidelines on the treatment of blood cholesterol to reduce exposure to cardiovascular risk in adults. They state that use of HSCRP for stratifying the risk factors, high risk patients for cardiovascular risk. That means HSCRP has some role to play in this, and HSCRP is simply highly sensitive CRP which associates any inflammatory state of the body. So coming to the pathogenesis, all of you know that it starts with anti-monocytes inside the cell wall from the lumen, because any condition which due to disorder in the lumen, and here is associated entry of LDL into the cell wall, leading to oxidized LDL. Oxidized LDL is very, very inflammatory cause, leads to trigger for inflammation, and leads to the stimulation of monocytes to form the macrophage and stimulation of nuclear factor kappa beta and PPAR gamma, and at the same time dendrocytes, which are additional building cells in the body. This is nuclear factor kappa beta pathway and kynurenine pathway. Then, when this is stimulation of these pathways, what does it lead? It leads to intermediate cascade. There is intermediate mediator release CRP, CD40, CD40 luminal, human necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 1, interleukin 6. There is activation of platelets, and at the same time, kynurenine pathway is activated, and there is also release of addition molecules like VCAM1 and ICAM1, which again leads to erosion of this wall and leads to a vicious cycle. These are the culprits in atherosclerosis. So, What are the mechanisms? Different mechanisms of inflammation. These are two pathways, kynurenine pathway and 3-hydroxyethylenic acid pathway. These are very important nowadays as a marker for cardiovascular disease. Again the same picture. So what are current options for this inflammation and these two pathways? We know that drugs acting on mesenchymal, that are anti-inflammatory like statins, drugs acting on platelets, anti-platelets, aspirin, and then there are other drugs which act on this nuclear factor gamma beta, and the other things which should act on kynurenine pathway. They may have some role in the prevention of the cardiovascular disease. This is a tryptophan metabolite, DHA. We'll discuss about it later on. And nuclear factor gamma beta pathway. Again, there is a drug known curcumin. We'll discuss this also. Coming to this pathway, nuclear factor gamma beta pathway. This is the nucleus of the cell, and this is the cytoplasm. There is nuclear factor gamma beta. It is in an inactivated state. Whenever there is an inflammatory stimulation, it leads to activation of this inactive heart. Activation IKKB, which leads to activation nuclear factor gamma beta. This, and then there is translocation of this into the nucleus. And there is translocation of nuclear factor gamma beta into nucleus from cytoplasm. It leads to inflammatory cascade. Lot of release of inflammatory mediators like human factor alpha, interleukin 6, interleukin 1, beta, HSCRP, and additional molecules like ICAM and GCAM1. So, curcumin. What is curcumin? It's a simple turmeric which we use daily in our diet. Spicy turmeric. What does it do? It prevents activation of nuclear factor gamma beta. Here. Then again, it prevents translocation of nuclear factor gamma beta to the nucleus. So, preventing the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines and release of additional molecules like ICAM and GCAM1. So, there is lesser amount of inflammation and almost no inflammation when curcumin acts on these sites. There are multiple sites of action. Curcumin. It decreases C-reactive protein and melanaldehyde, decreases MI acid, CABG. Almost it decreases MI incidence from 30 to 13% in post-CABG patients. Significantly reduce the serum cholesterol levels from, it has been seen that it reduces cholesterol levels from 190 to 117. Prevents progression of diabetic nephropathy by attending proteinuria, human TGF, beta, and intermediate 8 diabetic nephropathy. Decreases fasting blood glucose, HbA1c, and insulin resistance index. Then coming to this kynurenine pathway. Normally, this is a pathway in tryptophan metabolism from leading formation of tryptophan to lipoamide. Gangrene cells release indole amine protein laser, which leads to kynurenine formation of kynurenine, then anthracite acid, and then this is 3-hydroxyanthracite acid, which is very important. This 3-hydroxyanthracite acid has anti-atherosclerotic properties and reduces reduction LDL, reduction VLDL, and at the same time increases HDL levels. It is the same. It is an intermediate metabolite of tryptophan when metabolized through the kynurenine pathway. What does it do? It macrophages. This can inhibit activation of nuclear factor gamma beta and at the same time activity of inducible nitric oxidase decrease. Interleukin 2, 7 interleukin protein stimulation. It reduces the uptake of oxygen LDL by the macrophages and prevents formation of foam cells. The effect of 3-HAA on the lipid metabolism related genes. It decreases the levels of lipid metabolism genes. It inhibits TNF-alpha macrophage. Involves PPAR, which controls the effect of 3-HAA on plasma lipoproteins. It significantly increases the liver mRNA for FO1 and ABCA1. It increases HGS, increases LPR1 MI, leads to reduced plasma. There is a very important role in lipids. It decreases LDL, decreases VLDL, and increases the HDL levels. Again, same decrease plasma cholesterol, decrease triglyceride, and at the same time increase the HDL levels. 3-HAA stimulant decrease plasma lipids by 1/3 to 2/3 levels. And the effect of 3-HAA on inflammation. This PH, there's decreased inflammation, there's lesser amount of CD4 cell recruitment, infiltration in extravascular regions. On atherosclerosis, there's lesser amount of atherosclerosis, it significantly reduces the inflammation and almost 80% actually atherosclerosis lesions seen in this drug. In summary, PHA is an intermediate metabolic ranulin pathway that is tryptophan metabolism. It has the following clinically significant benefits: improves lipid profile by decreasing VLDL and LDL levels and increasing HDL levels. Significantly reduced vascular inflammation. And these are the other targets. These are target pathway and inflammatory mechanism highest stage of clinical development. These are in phase 3 studies and phase 3. These are target pathways, antioxidant, phospholipid inhibitors, and ecotrans. That's PLA2, LPA2, lab. Mechanism of this drugs is not perfectly specified, but they have a role in anti-inflammatory properties, decrease in lipid levels, decrease in stimulation of macrophages and monocytes. Again, these are phase 2 levels of clinical development. If they predominantly act on leukotriene, TNF pathway, interleukin pathway. And in conclusion, despite optimal therapy with the current drugs, still 1/3 of low-risk individuals, one or no risk factors have been known to have developed atherosclerosis cardiovascular disease. Controlling inflammation will help improve cardiovascular outcome and will further help reduce mortality and morbidity in patients. With our drugs like European drugs which we use, still there is a higher incidence of cardiovascular mortality and morbidity. We have seen patients presenting with acute MI, even he is on full dose of anti-ischemic drugs, statins, aspirin. Still, patient comes and goes with high chances of acute coronary syndrome. So there must be some other cause also. It's not only cholesterol and this which we are taking care of. So inflammation is a very important role. We normally see sometimes the patient comes with chest pain, his angiography sees normal coronaries, but even if the coronaries are normal, again presents with acute coronary syndrome after 2 months or 3 months. What is the cause? Because 100% coronaries are normal, there should be some cause which is inflammation trigger, patient basket or released and acute occlusion of arteries. Because lesion is not there, still patient presents STI, elevation MI, 100% occlusion of arteries. Thank you.